All right. So before we throw you into this mock trial, after we just finished talking about the criminal law process, civil law process, and criminal law in general, we're going to do a little bit of an introduction to kind of ease you into mock trial instead of tossing you into the deep end with no floaties. All right. So what we're going to start out with is how a courtroom is set up. All right. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I want you to draw this on your paper to the best of your ability. I know there isn't a super large place for you to do so. But here up at the top, towards the very front of the courtroom, is the judge. All right. This particular bird's eye view has to do with the case of James Whitey Bulger, who was one of the head honchos of the Irish mob in Boston in the 70s and, well, the 80s and the 90s. If you've seen the movie Black Mass with Johnny Depp, he is the one who played Whitey Bulger. All right, but here at the top we've got the judge. All right, so make sure you draw a nice box for your judge to sit on. We call the place that the judge sits a bench. It's not literally a bench. It's probably a nice, super comfy office chair. But if you hear any kind of courtroom speaker, if you've watched any Law and Order, any other criminal law show, you'll hear the judge to ask the counselors or the lawyers down here to approach the bench, which is basically where the judge sits. All right. Over here in the corner, you have a court reporter. So that's the lady or the man who types the whole entire time. So if someone says, like, for the record or let the record show, that's what that means. So any statement that does not need to be on there for the jury to see later on can be taken off, and they're in charge of basically taking minutes for the whole thing. All right, there is a clerk of court who is in charge of keeping all of the evidence in public display and in public view so that we can make sure that evidence is treated properly for it to be legit. These are extra seats for other witnesses, basically witnesses who are on deck to be examined or cross-examined. Sit over here in the corner. There are doors that lead you back to county lockup here on the other sides. There's always a flag in the courtroom. Over here is the witness box. Sometimes you'll see a witness box directly to the left or the right of the judge. In this particular courtroom, the witness box was over here to the side. All right, so on the left-hand side is the prosecution. All right, remember they're trying to put the defendant into prison or make sure that they are convicted of all charges. And on the right-hand side is the defense. Typically, the defense is supposed to sit closest to the jury. That rarely happens in actual fashion. The defense usually sits furthest away from the jury. All right, so here's where the defendant sits, usually in between their lawyers if they have more than one. They'll typically have a TV in the court if any video evidence is needed in order to present their case one way or the other. Back here, all these other random people who are not directly a part of open court, this is called the gallery, right? So usually the victims sit over here behind the prosecution. You don't want victims to sit behind the people who they are accusing. Defense, the United States Attorney's Office, other people can sit over here, family, public, and usually the media has one separate section where they are allowed to sit out of the way of people who would just like to observe. All right, so unless a courtroom is sealed to protect the identity of a confidential informant or of a victim that would not like to have their name put on the record, any other people who would like to just walk in off the street and hang out and watch any court proceedings may do so at any point in time. If you get old and retire and you have nothing better to do, you can mosey on down to the Greenville Courthouse and watch the magic happen. All right. So we've got two sides. You should already know this. You do already know this. The people are represented by the district attorney. So the people versus blah, blah, blah. The people versus O.J. Simpson, right? The people are represented by the district attorney or the assistant district attorney. So the DA or the ADA. They're bringing charges against people, all right? And the defense is obviously representing the person who has been charged with and accused of a crime. And they're trying to defend that person against charges and keep them out of the pen. All right. Next, we're going to talk about roles and goals. All right. So why are people in this courtroom to begin with? What is their purpose? What are they doing here? All right. We're going to start with counselors. The other names for these are lawyers or attorneys. Okay. We have prosecution counsel and defense counsel. Like I said, if a judge wants to speak to both sides' attorneys, they will say, counselors, please approach the bench. All right. Rather than lawyers, please come see me, or attorneys, come on up here. Right? There has to be a level of formal language inside of a courtroom. Right? So prosecution counsel is a fancy name for the lawyers who are trying to put somebody in prison. All right? They're trying to keep you in cell block D. All right, their role is to bring charges against the defendant on behalf of the people. And while you write this, you do not have to write the entire bullet. I would strongly suggest that you write what is in bold or paraphrase. Put it into your own words, okay? All right, the role is to bring charges against the defendant on behalf of the people, and their goal is to see that the defendant is convicted of all charges. So you hear that resounding guilty verdict from the jury foreman. All right, you also want to make sure, though, that you have worked out some kind of agreement with the judge beforehand that the sentence fits the crime. So if you steal a pack of gum from Sheetz, you don't get 8 years in, state penitentiary. That's not cool. Right? It's also extremely unconstitutional. So you want to make sure that the punishment fits the crime and is something that is agreed upon by both sides. Right? On the opposing side is the defense counsel. So this lawyer or attorney's job is to represent the defendant against all charges and alleged actions. All right, remember, you are innocent until you are proven guilty. There is presumption of innocence at all times. Now, did somebody probably do something bad? Yes. However, you have to make sure you prove them with physical evidence or any other type of evidence that that person actually did commit whatever crime is charged against them. All right, their goal is to clear the defendant. They want a resounding not guilty verdict. They want an acquittal, okay? Acquit. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. All right? Ooh, pause. Let's go back for a second. The other thing is to put doubt in the jurors' minds, all right? The singular version of jury is juror. That makes no sense, but here we are. All right? So your goal is to put doubt in their mind like, maybe this person might not have committed that crime. Maybe it was someone else, all right? Even if you don't prove them completely innocent. If you have what's called reasonable doubt, that means that there is some chance, as slim as it may be, that this person did not actually commit these crimes, then you don't want to put someone in prison for life if there is a chance they might not have actually committed that crime. All right, so your job is to put reasonable doubt in their mind. All right, judges next. This should be a relatively simple role and goal. Their job is to preside over the courtroom. So typically when someone is introduced in court, they'll say the Honorable Judge so-and-so presiding. Basically, you watch over the courtroom, and the goal is to make sure all the rules are followed. You cannot come up in the courtroom sagging with your little hat on, looking real cool. You cannot do that. You need to dress appropriately for court in business casual attire. Now, if you are unable to secure business casual attire, you still have to present your best self to the court. You can't roll up in there with your phone on. They will kick you out, and they could charge you with contempt of court if your phone goes off. So, you getting your little ESPN notifications in the middle of a trial is probably not a good idea. All right, their goal is to make sure all the rules are followed, and that both with evidence and conduct, they act as almost a referee of sorts between the two sides. And again, they issue a sentence if there is a conviction and a guilty verdict. All right, the jury, obviously, their role is to listen and to decide whether or not there is reasonable doubt. Okay, it's 12 citizens chosen from a jury pool. This can be anywhere from 200 to 400 people. They narrow it down based on people who have the least amount of chance that they know the defendant or know anything about the case, and they can be as unbiased as possible. Typically, there are 6 alternates that are put on standby, I guess, kind of like they're put on call to be jury members. If you are called for jury duty and you don't go, and the county sheriff finds out about it, they will send a squad car for you, and you get a nice leisurely ride in the back of the Charger to the Greenville courthouse to go do your jury duty. All right, so you need to do it. And obviously, their goal is to reach a verdict, either guilty or not guilty. All right, bailiff is up next. Their role is to act as a protector for all the people in the courtroom. So they are typically the only people who are armed inside of the courtroom. And their goal is to maintain order. They also swear people in. So please raise your right hand, repeat after me, ... Something to that effect. All right, the gallery, their role is to listen to testimonies and view the evidence presented. And the goal is to use observations for either the media or private reasons. All right. The sketch artist is basically there if cameras are not permitted in the court. They draw the witnesses during testimony, and their goal is to create a visual for everyone to see. All right, and the court recorder is to keep an accurate record, aka for the record. All right, and we're going to watch this Rockstar video.
Please rise. Court is now in session. Judge Seymour Watson presiding.
All rise.
All rise.
Family Court of 5th District, Los Angeles County, now in session. The Honorable Marvin Munson presiding. All rise.
All rise for the Honorable Judge Marshall Stevens.
Honorable.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse. They plead not guilty? The defendant is not guilty. You're the one who's guilty.
I'm going to set your bail at $3,000.
Your bail is $20,000.
$50,000 bail for $50,000.
$2,000 and better throw this jackass out of my court.
Sorry.
Call the first witness. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So anyway, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. And the truth shall set you free.
I know this isn't easy for you.
What were these other photographs of, Mr. Burton?
Is that a question?
Did you say utes?
Yeah, 2 utes.
What is a ute?
I am instructing my client not to answer that question on the grounds of self-incrimination.
The prosecution is not going to get that man today. No. Because I'm going to get him.
I object, Your Honor. This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of 2 mockeries of a sham.
I move we dismiss claim for damages on the grounds that those women were not his. Shut up.
I don't want these 2 fellas pitching knuckleballs at me at the same time.
I object, Your Honor. Sit down.
Your Honor, I object.
You would.
Bastard!
Move to strike that from the record, Your Honor. It's speculation.
So stricken.
Objection overruled. Overruled.
To overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now you may proceed, Mr. Biegler.
Your Honor, I'd like to say a few words to the court, if I may.
Now listen, this is a cross-examination of a murder case. It's not a high school debate.
Then you're just a bunch of lousy, yellow, stinking cowards!
Sir, you're out of order.
Order in the court.
Order, order!
Your Honor?
Shut up!
Right down, Mr. Bigoda.
You're out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order.
Is that justice?
You must learn the law.
What do you love about the law, Andrew?
Many things.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I know you've spent all morning listening to Mr. Broigo talk. I know you're hungry.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard a lot here today, and I'm not going to try to go back over it all again for you.
I'd hate to be in your shoes today. You have a lot to think about. You've seen much hidden evidence the American public has never seen.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves. In the name of God. Do your duty.
Have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
We find the defendant not guilty.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Clay Shaw, not guilty.